Despite only being in the story for about 2.5 seasons, Erwin Smith is one of the greatest characters in Attack on Titan and one of the greatest leaders in all of fiction. Now, I'm sure at some point in our lives we've all been approached by our parents and asked about our friends, and they probably said something like this. So, if your friend jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? Or some other kind of variation of that question. And I think we can all agree that our first thought was, why on earth would they jump off a cliff? Like, what are you trying to ask here? But ultimately, we can probably all agree, even though we may not have said it to our parents, that no, if my friend jumped off a cliff, I would not be doing that. In fact, when you think about it, there's not many people that most of us, if not all of us, would jump off a cliff for. At all. Like, I don't think there's probably anyone in this world. But in Attack on Titan, this happens a lot. Erwin asks people to die and they do so willingly. And if we were in Attack on Titan, it might be the case. So, why is Erwin's leadership so good? Why can Erwin do this? What gives him this power? And also, if you also want people to die for you, what does it take to be this kind of leader? And so let's ask ourselves the question of, if Erwin asks us to jump off a cliff and die, why would we do so willingly? Now, the first thing we're probably going to look at when we look at Erwin's character is his introduction in the story, when we actually see him and get introduced to who he is for the first time. And before this happens, there's a lot of confusing stuff going on in the world. There's titans that eat humans, there's this gear that allows people to swing from building to buildings, people are basically swordsmen who can fly, and finally we find out that Eren can turn into a titan. Like, what is this? This is a very confusing world to be in. And, we have characters like Eren and these guys who clearly have goals of their own and, they know what they want in life. But they're very new, right? And most of the characters around them are not as ambitious as they are. And so you feel like we need someone who kind of knows what's going on to kind of lead us through this story. Some kind of, great senpai we can look up to. But it seems like there's no one. And then we meet Pixis. This is such a great guy. He's so laid back and he actually gives speeches that make people turn around and fight titans. And you think, this is the guy. Then you realize that this guy is actually just pretty lazy and doesn't want to do much. He just likes to sit inside the walls, and we want to go outside and see what's outside. So, as great as Pixis is, he's probably not the guy for us. But then, just at the end of the Trust battle, we meet Erwin. And this guy is a leader, he's smart, he's tactful, and very composed, very cool looking, and well spoken. Like, his mere existence as the leader of the scouts is catharsis to us, because this is the person we've wanted the senpai to look up to, the new husbando. Like, he is everything you want, and he's everything that we need for people like Eren and all the main characters. Now, as for Erwin himself, as we get to know him over the course of the story, he's a very plain looking fellow, but he's actually really interesting. Like, nothing really gets to this guy. He seems like no matter what you say, opinions around him, he's on this higher level of existence for some reason, and he's just really smart. He's probably really skilled. I mean, we've never really seen how good he is with ODM gear, but we just assume he's competent. I mean, he's the leader, for crying out loud, so he has to be good. And, he's a great tactician. He proved this in Season 1 when we were trying to smoke out Annie, and in Season 3 with the whole plan he concocted to overthrow the royal family. And then we also find out that he's really impartial, right? He doesn't really have much favoritism going on. He's very logical in his thinking. Proves this during what I think is one of the, his simple greatest moment in the story. Because at the end of the day, even he doesn't think his life matters in the grand scheme of things. And it's interesting to think that of all things that they could have accused him of, they accused him of playing favorites when being impartial is one of his strong suits. And finally, the most notable thing that we all think of when we think of Erwin is his way with words. This guy can tell you to die, he can fill you with hope. I mean, look, they accused him of killing a person, and everyone hated this guy, but the moment he told them, I'm gonna find the person who killed your husband, everyone was like, so confused. Like, they didn't know what to think anymore. I'm sure that if someone said that now, like, people would still be like, okay, no, this guy is lying, just shut up. But like, he says that and people honestly don't know whether they should be upset with him anymore. Like, a simple line, like, this guy just knows how to say stuff. But this can't be it. I'm sure if this was it, then so many YouTubers would be great leaders and they'd have multiple people who would die for them at one command or whatever. And so a lot of what's hidden about Erwin is revealed when we finally find out a bit more about his past, about his father, and about what motivates him to be who he is. In season 3, Erwin tells Pixis as they sit across each other planning the whole thing with the royal family and overthrowing them, that a long time ago he was a student in his father's class and he had some curiosity about, the outside world and how we're certain that people in the world are the last ones left. And yeah, in the class his father kind of brushed him off, but then he kind of also told him secretly what he thought, and as we know, he told this to other kids, and in the end this kind of gets his father killed. And so at the end of the day, we find out that a lot of what drives him is just he's still this young boy who wants to prove that his father was right. And that's it. That's literally all there is that made him such a great leader. This simple backstory, this simple want and desire is what actually makes him so relatable. It's nothing too complex. Yes, people have lost each other in the wars and there have been some particularly tragic backstories, but Erwin's is nothing too crazy. So he has a very simple backstory and it's almost like that is what makes him so great in his ambition, is that he's focused on a very simple goal of proving his father correct. And it's this laser-like focus, this vision of what he wants to achieve that actually makes him feel like he's floating above everyone else. He's not distracted by everything that comes in between, stuff concerning figuring out, how to deal with the royal family. He's not concerned with ranking very high. He's not concerned with a lot of other little things along the way. He has one focus and one mission, and that's to prove that his father was correct. It's to prove that his father didn't die in vain. And he feels this weight for not only himself, but for everyone else, all the scouts that he's led to their deaths. That is a very relatable emotion that even Eren talks about all the way in episode 1 that we found out was really important in season 4. And this emotion of trying to not let people die in vain is such a big thing in Attack on Titan that it's so relatable and so general to everyone that we don't even know what his father told him. That day when they went home, all we know is that his father told him some stuff that he told his friend. We don't know what Erwin is trying to validate at the end of the day. But it's the point that he wants to prove that everyone who has died up until now died for a reason. They died for the truth that does exist. And this is also where his impartiality stems from. The fact that only some people in Attack on Titan seem to think that they're worthy of knowing the truth and everyone else isn't. But for him, everyone should be worthy, and this is where his impartiality, spreads out from and, stretches into more general stuff. And as he goes around in everything he does, all the way down to his words, he emotes it in them. When he speaks, you feel exactly that this guy, he knows what we're going through. He wants the truth. He wants justice. He wants everything to be set right. He wants the record set straight, and you feel it no matter what he says to you because you know that he relates to how you're feeling. And this is a very nice callback to what Marco tells Jean in season 1, that Jean is a great leader not because of his skill, but because he understands how other people feel. Because Jean looks at people like Mikasa and says, they have great skill, they should probably be leaders. And if that was true, then maybe Levi would be the leader of the scouts given how skilled he is. But it's not about the skill. It's about how he relates to people. It's about how his words, because he relates and he has this laser-like vision, he can really understand everyone and everyone can trust his words because they know that he's focused on a certain specific goal that relates to them as well. They know that his interests and his goals are only ever what their interests and their goals are. Everything in his life has been devoted and is focused on this specific goal. And that's why he could tell them to die, and they would. Because everyone believes that when he speaks, that what he speaks is truth, and it is the best option because he's devoted his life to it. And despite any reservations or personal feelings that they may have, that they will do it because they understand that and they believe that with all their heart because of the person Erwin has proved himself to be. And the same is true for us as well. We want to follow people who have a vision of the future. People who are so focused on something that we find interesting, whether they're focused on creating a YouTube channel, whether they're focused on creating a business, whether they're focused on achieving a certain thing in life that we like as well. We want to follow these people who are so focused because that is what we just all seek for in a leader. But personally, what I also seek for is a subscription from you. So please subscribe and do all the good stuff, and I will catch you in the next one.